We've known the facts about climate change for decades. The science is settled. The data is clear. The solutions exist. But the problem isn't a lack of information. The data's been modeled, graphed, and discussed since I was a young student watching Bill Nye the Science Guy in the 90s. So why hasn't that knowledge translated into action? More and more, I think the problem is how we've been trying to teach it, to message it, to contextualize it. There's a story that stuck with me from my conversation today. A kid who loved potato chips, but when asked to trace them back to their source, he couldn't get out of the factory. The idea that his favorite snack started as a tuber in the ground, covered in dirt, was completely foreign to him. If a child doesn't understand where their food comes from, how can we expect them to grasp the complex systems that govern climate, ecosystems, or community resilience? Facts don't change minds. Lived experience does. Connection does. Belief does. To explore what that looks like in practice, I wanted to talk with someone who's been proving this theory for over 2 decades. Drew Dumsch is the president and CEO of the Ecology School at Riverbend Farm in Maine. He co-founded the organization 26 years ago with a radical idea that ecological literacy is foundational to creating engaged, compassionate citizens. He's built a solar-powered campus that models regenerative living, helped pass bipartisan legislation for outdoor education, and leads a network proving that education isn't just about memorizing facts. It's about understanding how the world actually works and our place within it. I'm Eric Ressler, and this is Designing Tomorrow. And now, my conversation with Drew Dumsch. Drew, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thanks, Eric. I'm excited to be talking to you about resilience and getting through the next few months.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have you on today. There's a lot I want to get to, but I think where I want to start is to dig into your experience right now as a leader at a social impact organization, especially one that has probably seen some effects of the policies of the current administration with regards to funding cuts, also with regards to extra scrutiny on anything environmental, climate, sustainability. What's it been like this year for you, man?
Well, it's interesting, just a little bit of background. So I'm president and CEO of the Ecology School at Riverbend Farm here in Saco, Maine. We're an environmental living and learning center. So what we do is bring people here to stay in our dorm, take meals in our dining commons, and then explore this amazing 313-acre farm that is Riverbend Farm. We teach about conservation. We teach about regenerative farming. We teach about social emotional wellness, especially with the students we work with. We definitely grapple with environmental justice, definitely equity issues, climate action, food security, innovative education models. So I'm listing a lot of things, and we actually are able to internet all that to help people be better kind of systems thinkers and systems citizens. So everything I just listed off to you, Eric, is under attack right now. I don't think there's one thing I listed that doesn't feel like it's at some level a little bit under attack. So
yeah, if this were a bingo card, I think you just won, my friend.
Yeah. So, and we're lucky in that, like right now, we do have a USDA grant, a federal agriculture grant that was frozen, but then unfrozen. And it's a great grant. It's Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production. It's a 3-year grant that's allowing us to have farm apprentices and grow more food for food banks, which is important because USDA actually cut their food bank funding. Definitely as a site, we embraced the amazing International Living Future Institute Living Building Challenge. So our 2 new buildings, the 7,000 square foot dining commons and the 9,000 square foot dormitory, are solar powered and super green. But again, some of what we're seeing now is a pushback against climate action. And definitely with the unraveling of the Department of Education at the federal level, that will have impact on all the schools we work with. Part of our business model is the Ecology School at Riverbend Farm is that we are doing a lot of outdoor school programming, which is kind of the snapshot for a center like mine, working with public and private schools, bringing entire classes at a time. And that's what keeps us busy in the spring and the fall season, Monday to Friday, is getting classes, like all the 6th graders from Poland, Maine, come in with their teachers and have a program. So knowing that schools are going to be under more stress because of DOE cutbacks, which will really affect things like, Title I and special education support and teacher training. In fact, I'm really proud. We just wrapped up our 5th year of our National Teacher Institute, and it's really designed as a way to bring teachers from around the country and support them and give them hope that being a teacher is part of a larger community doing amazing things. Everything we believe in now is kind of shifting around, and we're really working hard on our end to deal with that.
Yeah, let's lean into that a little bit. I've been hearing that a lot with these interviews. Obviously, big funding shifts, big funding gaps. Also hearing that the level of competition, especially for philanthropy funding, is higher than it's ever been in a lot of different ways, driven partly because of the extra need of funding happening. What has that experience been like for you, and how are you thinking about continuing to raise the funding that you need to do your work in a sustainable way?
When I started the Ecology School with a couple colleagues back in 1998, for the first 20 years, we were renting a Unitarian Universalist Conference Center, a summer camp in the off season. So we were basically a seasonal renter. And what happened over the past 10 years is we identified a farm up the road where we are now, Riverbend Farm. We were able to buy it. We were able to build this incredible super green solar powered campus during COVID, no less. But we built the campus, opened up in June of 2021. So we've been open here at our new campus, which we own and is open year round, about a little over 4 years ago. And what's been so amazing in having our own site is our ability to convene the important work of environmental justice, climate action, food security, conservation, innovative education. Our role as a convener has been really amazing, whether it's working with Maine Farmland Trust, Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. We host the Maine Farm and Sea to School Institute. We just hosted the Climate Initiative, which is a wonderful Maine-based, but they're a national climate action, youth climate action group. So we've started really, part of our role is helping other nonprofits and even agencies. And so we become this kind of convener where people doing this kind of work are meeting in an area, in a place that embodies the work. Because I don't know, you've probably been, how many conferences or workshops have we done at like a Hilton or a Holiday Inn in rooms with no windows and, no composting and no recycling and no. So we're trying to be that kind of provider, convener for, we can't do huge conferences, but, we hosted the National Nature Center Conference a couple years ago for the Association of Nature Center Ministers. It was great. We had 150 leaders of nature centers from around the country right here in Maine hanging out for a week. So really this idea of being a convener is going to help us get through this. 15 years ago in Maine, we founded what was called the Environmental Living and Learning for Maine Students, but it was a partnership of outdoor schools. We were looking at Oregon, which passed about 10 years ago, a referendum and bond funded, where every middle school kid now, almost every kid in Oregon goes to outdoor school and spends 3, 4, 5 days at a place like the Ecology School. So we took inspiration from that. So here in Maine, we now have this Maine Outdoor School for All network. And this spring, we got the Outdoor School for All Maine Students bill passed unanimously in the Senate. This is interesting too, in this area of hyper-partisanship. We passed that Outdoor School for All Maine Students bill 34-0 in the Maine Senate.
Wow.
Completely unanimous. And then in the House, it passed 113-1. So the fact that we could take something like getting kids outside and spending time at a place like here that's modeling climate action and farming and all that, and to get that level of bipartisanship is encouraging. We're trying to figure out the funding part of it, but that kind of network power and collaborative power is going to mean more than ever.
Yeah, I want to dig into, you talked about being a consensus building organization. You have this unique asset of this beautiful conference center, this beautiful farm that you've built that's a keystone example of what true sustainability looks like in building and in environmentalism. And I think there's a lot of value in that consensus building. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm a father. I have two little girls. I think a lot about, I think honestly, almost every day about what is their future going to look like as it relates to climate justice and climate action. We're all seeing in our lived experience the impacts of what we've already done to the climate through flooding, through wildfires, through, massive heat waves. We're going through one right now. And it seems like there's got to be a strange experience being in environmental education where the science is pretty clear. There's pretty clear consensus that this is an issue. This is an urgent issue, that we're already seeing the effects. And yet the policy doesn't seem to be keeping up with the science. And so I'm just curious, like, how do you think about, education doesn't really seem to be the problem here in my mind around why political leaders at the global level aren't making the decisions that we need to make. So what's your theory of change? Like, how do we get there? And understanding, no one small organization is going to be able to fix it, but, optimistically, what's our path look like to get out of this mess that we're in?
This gets back to what type of education. Outdoor schools are kind of like a school year camp version, where instead of individual kids going to summer camp signed up by their parents, every kid in the whole community in a grade gets to come to a place like Riverbend with their teachers. So there's that amazing community aspect. And really, given especially in the last decade or so, all the research on learning research, on cognition, education psychology, being told facts is not the purpose of education. Facts are part of becoming a well-rounded human being and an engaged citizen. And really, I think a huge gap is, as a society, we lack the ability to understand systems. A great example, early on in my career, toward the end of the week, I'd do an activity where kids, there's a food systems activity. They'd have kids pick their favorite food item and trace it back to its source. And I had a kid love potato chips. Okay, great. Trace it back to its source. I could not get that kid out of the factory. The idea that his beautiful potato chip that he loves to eat started as a tuber in the ground covered in dirt was reprehensible to him. And that kind of early on, I'm like, as much as I like taking kids out into the forest or taking them to tide pools or marshes, if I'm not doing a heavy dose of food systems education, I'm missing a huge part of that. So teaching people the complexities of a system through simple, repeated, enjoyable experiences is kind of what we're about at the Ecology School. Teaching that broader systems, that how the world works, how ecosystems, which it's right there, ecosystems like a forest or a tide pool, how they are healthy and function. And we can take that inspiration to be less impactful as humans and more regenerative. I think there's a wonderful opportunity to give kids and adults more of these type of experiences where they pick an apple from a tree, they maybe cook that apple, make a pie, they see the sunrise over the river. You're giving these experiences, but then linking those experiences to bigger systems, into communities and community dynamics is powerful, because we can't talk our way out of this, and we can't be told our way out of this. The whole, like you're saying earlier, like, sure, there's plenty of education, like climate change is happening. Why aren't you reading the policy papers and changing your life? And actually, going back to learning theory, that's just not how most people learn. I think one thing we do at the Ecology School is give an enjoyable week-long experience living and learning together, and you're norming things like eating farm fresh food and being compassionate with each other. And that's a huge thing. It's really come to the forefront, especially in the last few months. There is no place for casual cruelty at all. And unfortunately, we're seeing at very high levels, constant casual cruelty. And I think one thing we really do well at the Ecology School is model compassion. And compassion for each other, compassion for the earth. We can talk about climate acts until we're blue in the face, but if we're cruel about that, I mean, you could really, I would argue you could create sustainability through fascism and cruelty, but that's not regenerative. It may be sustainable, but is that a vibrant community you want to live in? You could force everyone to do solar power and electric cars, and I don't think that's what we want, though we know that's the smart solution, moving toward that electrification and all that. But actually, there's a really great book. It's called The Triple Focus. It's by Daniel Goleman, who did a lot of the social emotional kind of intelligence work, and then Peter Senge, who's the god of, systems thinking. The two of them got together and wrote a book called The Triple Focus. And they said basically the education of the future is just three things: understanding of self, understanding of others, and understanding of systems. And if you can get that right, you're going to have an amazing society, if that's the new approach to education. So that kind of gave voice to what we were doing already at the Ecology School. We started out we're doing ecology because ecology is making connections. And we do ecology, teach ecology because it helps people understand systems. And then, if we understand systems, we will be a regenerative society. These kind of building blocks of why we're doing what we're doing. And you can hear too, there's a level of intentionality of what we do at the Ecology School. And I'd been at a couple of centers, which lovely experience, get the kids out in the redwoods, do a tide pool, but there wasn't that underpinning of why are we doing this? So when I started the Ecology School with my good friends and colleagues, Steve Stignell and Brad Bradway, we started with the level of intentionality, and we came up with this construct. Just as you learn your ABCs so you can read, if you learn what we call the ABCs of ecology, you can learn to read the landscape. It's all about ecological literacy. And then, of course, if you're illiterate, you can't read, how can you be a fully functioning member of society? And if you are ecologically literate, it brings a whole nother level of your ability to understand the world and to walk within the world with intention and compassion.
Hey friends, real quick before we continue today's episode. I'm Eric Ressler, founder and creative director at Cosmic. Cosmic is a creative agency purpose-built for nonprofits and mission-driven organizations. For the last 15 years, we've helped leaders like you nail your impact story and sharpen your strategy. But we're not here to just leave you with a fancy slide deck and a pat on the back. We roll up our sleeves and help you bring our ideas to life through campaigns, creative, and digital experiences. Our work together helps you earn trust, connect deeply with your supporters, and grow your fundraising and your impact. If you value the thinking we share here and want it applied to your biggest challenges, let's talk at designbycosmic.com. All right, back to today's conversation. I was very intrigued by your framing of, I think the term is biomimicry, is a way to learn from nature and regenerative practices and applying that to even learning, which is something I haven't heard before. We've done some work with some other conservation-focused organizations, and conservation used to be, and maybe sometimes still is, this idea of protection, right? Protecting land from people. And there seems to be a shift happening where it's less about that today, and it's more about creating meaningful connections and relationships between people and lands. And sometimes that might mean protecting lands and keeping people off of lands. But often I think it's now also becoming recognized that getting people into nature and getting people to understand nature, to use your words, from a lived experience instead of a academic or factual side of things is clearly part of this solution. But then to tie it back to the systems concept, to me, it feels like there is a major schism between the lived experience of many people and what many people care about. I'd say most people care about the environment, maybe at different levels, but if they learn that their backyard forest is going to be decimated. Most people are going to be upset by that and understand why that's bad. But this feeling of inability to do anything about it, and that there's this system that basically isn't serving the needs and the will of the people, and that there are many large, powerful forces who essentially don't seem to really care about what people think and are more motivated by, other things, whether that's profit or power or whatever, to kind of basically not solve this in the long term for short-term benefit and gains. How do we bridge that gap? How do we get more people who care about this to make the right decisions at the right time so that we can all enjoy, our human experience and connection to the natural world?
When I read the studies, like, teenagers and young adults, the level of depression and anxieties time,
Yeah.
it's like, and even younger than teenagers too.
Yeah.
But hope is based on both understanding of what can be and then agency to be a part of that. And I think what we're really trying to do with our work here at the Ecology School, and by grounding people in this lived experience at Riverbend Farm, is that, well, number one, agency is about starting where people are, not where you want them to be. There's often, like with climate action, it's like all or nothing. If your house isn't solar powered and you're driving an electric car, you suck. That kind of like, meeting people where they are, even taking a basic step of, turning down their air conditioner or, buy more local food. I mean, there's impact there. And we often get these kind of on the utopian, like, oh, if we're just going to have like a solid state battery and we're going to have these carbon scrubbers. And, it's always about technology 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line, when we know right now that we have what we need to radically lower carbon. And we know we have the potential to feed more people. As I said earlier, with our experience, the kind of programming that we offer here at Riverbend, whether it's for kids or adults, it's that multiple, simple, enjoyable, inspirational, awe-inspiring experiences do add up to some greater whole where you become more attached and more connected to your community and the broader, not just the human community, the world community, the natural community, the environment.
I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind. Is I think there's this this urge, and I think I even fall trapped to this at times, to be able to have some kind of simple explanation for this problem, right? Oh, it's all about collective action and we need to do that, or it's all about technology and we need to do that, or oh, it's just the evil fossil fuel companies, or oh, it's all the bad actors at world governments not hitting their goals and saying one thing at COP and then not actually coming through on it. But I think a lot about how change happens and how intractable problems get solved. And there's two things that I think are always true. One is there's never a simple solution, or there's rarely a simple solution. And two is that it takes time and it takes a lot of people coming together from different vantage points. And I think when you consider climate action as potentially the biggest problem in the world to solve, that we all have skin in the game to solve, it makes sense that there's not any one solution. I do think it's worth doubling down on this idea that, and not even this idea, this fact that we actually have most of the solutions we need right now today to solve climate change, right? And at the same time, it's hard though, right? Because it does require people to make behavior changes, which is one of the hardest things to convince people to do, especially when they're already under economic pressure, or they're already, working two jobs just to make ends meet. And then you say, oh, and by the way, you also need to compost, and by the way, you also need an electric car, which you can't afford. So I think it's a complex thing.
The wonderful thing, though, I mean, I think of like Wendell Berry had that term of like solving for pattern. And I think one of the most inspiring, and I think why the Ecology School, when we started thinking about owning our own site, we wanted to buy a farm. We had a garden at our rented site, which was lovely, but you harvest potatoes once in a little garden and that's it. So we knew we wanted a farm, because using food systems is kind of like an overarching lens. In fact, we've come up our kind of overarching approach to food system. We call it agroecology for resilient communities, the ARC project, ARC. But the idea of using agroecology makes sense. We're the Ecology School, and applying ecological principles to the growing of food is agroecology. And the idea that if you get agroecology right, it's a systemic approach and a holistic approach to growing food. You create resilient communities. You help address food insecurity. You localize the economy. And we know, I mean, agriculture is a huge driver in climate change, and getting agriculture right means you're addressing climate change. And getting, regenerative models too. It's not an either or. You were talking earlier about, hardcore preservationists. And it was interesting when we were starting this project, we definitely were dealing, and still are somewhat, with the whole NIMBY not in my backyard, that like the Ecology School at this farm, we're going to destroy things. Where the opposite, the way we farm, we, do like we're creating a food forest, which will bring in songbirds. Like our goal, our model of farming at Riverbend will create richer soil and more biodiversity. So we're meeting conservation goals while at the same time we're humans on the landscape, and it's a working landscape. I don't think it's either or. It does not have to be either. It's, and I love that, like the difference between preservation and conservation. I think of like, preserves, put some tomatoes or, some strawberry jam up on a shelf, and then no one can touch it. You're going to look at those preserves. That's preservation to me. But I'm like, conservation is about active relationships with the land. And especially, we're in New England. I'm in Maine. I can show you a picture of Riverbend Farm 100 years ago. There are no trees anywhere near the farmhouse. So when we were having these conversations, we need to preserve Riverbend. It's a beautiful farm. It's under easement, conservation easement. How dare the Ecology School touch it? And I'm like, what year are we freezing for the preservation? Because, I think how we've thought about land use here has been incredibly intentional and incredibly based on ecological principles and agroecology principles. And the thing is that we've got thousands of people coming here modeling that you can grow food and not ruin the earth. You can grow food locally instead of all the way from, I'm in Maine. I don't think a lot of our produce should come from California. That's weird.
Yeah, that's fair.
And the thing is too, all this, like you're bringing about, people want the simple solution. That's boring too. I mean, I think the level of diversity in solutions is exciting and creative, and it's such an opening for people to engage, that there isn't just one solution, monolithic, we will all do this and the world will be better. It's going to take multiple solutions. I know that's hard for some people to embrace, but
if you're in any kind of this work right now, doing sustainability, doing environmentalist work, it's been a little bit of a tough year for a lot of folks, and I can hear a little bit of that in your voice, but I'm also struck by the amount of optimism and the excitement about all the good things that are happening. And I want to give you an opportunity to speak more to that. Like, what in this moment is actually giving you hope and keeping you going even when things are getting hard?
So actually, my wife came up with it because it's definitely been dispiriting, but she used the term demoralizing. And I'm like, that's it. I am demoralized. Yet at the same time, as you can hear from when I start talking with people like you, Eric, who really care about this stuff, and you've got kids too. I've got 2 kids. They're more teenagers, college, but like, you've got kids, you want their future to be bright. Me showing up to work every day is my act of rebellion. So, and it's hard because we are struggling right now financially. We are doing a lot, we're raising money through grants. We're lucky in that our model also brings in earned income because people do pay for programming. So we're about to actually hire a sales coordinator and up our game and book more people. But it's challenging. And at the same time, I mean, God, the stock market's still doing good. So part of me, like, I pay attention to that. I'm like, stock market doing well means foundations are flush with cash and philanthropists are flush with cash. And if you're a progressive funder who is thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm like, hey, if you want to be a benefactor to a place like the Ecology School, that is such an actionable way to do positive impact and invest in the future. I always tend to think of the glass as definitely more half full than half empty. And it was interesting when I helped found the Maine Outdoor School for All Network 15 years ago. I had people like, how can you work with like 4-H and Chewonki and Schoodic, these other folks? Aren't you competing for like kids to do your programs? I'm like, it's a growth model. If our goal, if it's an equity issue, every child should be able to go to an outdoor school in middle school to have that week-long inspiration point, that kind of like rite of passage coming of age. It's a growth model because only about 15-20% of kids in Maine get that now, and it's definitely often the richer communities. So partnering together is actually not only collaborative, it's good business sense. We're lucky in that New England, especially Maine, we're a highly collaborative state in terms of things like environmental education, conservation work, food systems work. There's a lot of cool organizations that play well with each other and collaborate a lot. And we're lucky that way in this state.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And any funders listening to the show who are trying to figure out how to spend down, let's hit Drew up and get him some money.
That'd be great.
To do some of this good work.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. As you know, I love what we do and a big advocate of it. And when we can bring more people into the work, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. This has been great. Before we wrap up, how would you like people to get in touch, to follow? What would you like to plug?
Yeah, I think our web address is pretty easy. It's the name of our organization, theecologyschool.org. So going there is a great way. We definitely have a, LinkedIn presence, Instagram, Facebook, all those kind of things.
Awesome. Well, Drew, thank you so much for today. This was awesome.
Oh, thanks so much, Eric. I appreciate it. And good luck on all your stuff. It sounds like you're doing great work yourself.
Thank you. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe, or even leave us a comment. It really helps. Thank you. And thank you for all that you do for your cause and for being part of the movement to move humanity and the planet forward.